Good morning, students. So in our last or previous class, we had started off with resources, and I had explained to you both human and non-human resources. Now today we move on to conservation and management of community resources. Now what does conservation or management of community resources mean? Community resources are those resources which are used by the whole society as such and is not to be used just by one person. Hence, there has to be proper management of these resources so that it can be properly utilized or everyone can benefit from it. The first one is fuel. It is a material capable of producing heat or power, which is needed by everyone in the community. So what we find is that fuel is of different types. We can get energy or heat from cow dung cake, coal, wood, which is generally used in the rural sector. And in the urban sector, we mostly use kerosene, LPG gas, electricity, and another renewable source of fuel is biogas, which is obtained from the waste materials of human beings and animals. So fuel is needed for cooking and has to be conserved, means we cannot waste it, and so for this reason we have to collect it and light it in the correct way so that there is no wastage, and after finishing using it we need to put off the flame so that it can be used later on also. And once the food that is being cooked starts boiling, we need to lower the flame so that there is no wastage of fuel. Wide mouthed vessels and shallow vessels cooks food faster, and while boiling the food, excess water should not be used, because excess water, if used, will be an unnecessary waste. When we cook dals, that is pulses, cereals, we need to soak it before so that it becomes soft and takes less time to cook. Pressure cooker is a very important device. By using a pressure cooker, we can very well cook food much faster, and it prevents loss of heat during cooking. The flame that is being used for cooking the food should be bright and blue in color, because if the flame turns yellow, that means there is wastage because it is unable to burn properly, and mainly this happens because it is getting insufficient oxygen. As you know from your chemistry, that whenever something burns and if there is insufficient oxygen, then automatically the flame becomes yellow. So blue flame will help us to save the fuel. Too much of reheating and overcooking of food will be a wastage of energy. And food, when kept in the refrigerator, before it is warmed, it should be brought to the room temperature. Dirty utensils and burners definitely consume more energy. So the burners have to be cleaned from time to time. Next, another what we call resource which is used by the whole community and has to be conserved is electricity. Electricity is an expensive fuel which is used for cooking, heating water, lighting, for electrical appliances. So wastage of energy got from electricity needs to be avoided. For this, switch off the lights when leaving the room. We must switch off the TV, radio, etc. when not needed. Then economize the electricity by sharing lighting, space heating, cooking equipments, room heaters. Like in a house, the whole family can be in one room, so that only one heater is used rather than using more than 2 or 3 heaters. Fluorescent and as well as LED bulbs and tubes will definitely give us more illumination, more light, and will help us to conserve energy. Make maximum use of natural light while working, especially daylight. This will save electricity bills. And whenever we need dim light, we need to use a low voltage bulb. The appliances used should not be too old, because if it's too old, then we find that they consume a lot of electricity. And to prevent wastage, the old appliances have to be given off. Next resource, a very important resource for the whole community to be used, is water. Water, what we find is that slowly over the years, the water table in the ground is slowly the level is going down. And we find that as the water level falls, we need to conserve, or we have to give it a thought as how to make the best use of water, that is limited use. So close the tap, don't allow it to flow, maintain the flow of water to check water wastage, use water in only required quantities, don't overuse it, and which needs to be thrown later on. Appreciable amount of water can be conserved by doing family wash. Don't wash your clothes daily, as this will increase the need for water. Wash your clothes, collect a number of items and wash it in one day. That is, the whole family's clothes can be washed together in one day. Use of soakage pit ensures filtration of wastewater to a large extent, and this will help to stop pollution of groundwater. Wastewater from the kitchen can be used in the garden and will not be a wastage. And if there is a community source of water, then proper maintenance has to be done. The taps should not be left open. The taps on the roadsides must not be left open, because most of many cities and all, what we find is that in the slums and all, they have a community tap, that is a tap. They don't have a tap in every household. The corporation or the municipality sets up a tap in the road, and everyone shares that water. Hence, when people queue up for water collection, they must ensure that the taps are closed after they have finished filling. Then rooftop rainwater harvesting is extremely important in those regions of the country which have heavy rainfall. So the rain that falls on the roofs can be channelized through pipes or into bore wells, tanks, and from time to time the underground storage can be recharged. The stored water can be used during the dry season. And as a result of this, what we find is that these days, especially in multi-storied buildings and all, where there is rainwater harvesting, they are able to utilize a lot of rainwater in the dry season, which they have collected. Public transport, another source of saving energy. Buses, trams, aeroplanes, etc. are some modes of transport which will help to commute to the place of work or for leisure and time pursuits. Because if each one travels in his personal car, it will be a wastage of fuel and will definitely cause a lot of pollution. It's better if we can manage at least a few days in a week to use the public transport, especially students, then people going to office. And what we find is that this public transport, when used, we must see that we do not damage it, because it is meant for the whole community and not for a group of people. As many a times we find students damaging it if they find that the bus is overcrowded or if the cost is very high of the ticket cost. So for this reason, we find that we have to Antisocial activities must not take place because public transport is used by all. Next comes parks. Parks are very, very important, especially for the elderly and the children in a community. So, what activities should be undertaken by the people, the residents of the neighborhood, the colonies that are there, so that the members take responsibility of the park and they can hire a gardener and maintain the park. Because a greenery, if around near the buildings, will definitely make everyone much happier. The older children can look after the water requirements. Then children, they get knowledge about the different plants. Elder citizens can come and relax in the park. So if this facility is available near a colony, definitely it will improve the lifestyle of the whole community. Schools and hospitals are also community resources. Education through the government schools is meant for all, as well as health and hygiene, which is being provided through the government hospitals. So high degree of cleanliness must be maintained both in schools and hospitals, and the equipments should not be damaged. And the most undesirable damages done to the school building and property by unscrupulous children should be avoided, because schools is a center of education which will help to improve the lives of children for generations and generations. Hence, the schools set up by the government, of course private sector also, should be looked after by the students who utilize its services. Same with the hospitals, the equipments in the hospitals have to be looked after too. Roads. The family or the whole community is connected through roads. So you must not block them for personal functions, as it will create inconvenience to the community members. And we should try our best to keep it clean and safe. So this is how we can conserve and look after the community resources. Followed by this, we move on to the next part of this topic, that is process of management and decision making. First of all, the question arises, what is management? We can say management is the process to utilize what you already have and to achieve what you require. I repeat once again, it is a process to utilize what you already have and to achieve what you require. So the main goals of management is what we want and how we can get it with the resources available with us. Hence, for this reason, the process of management is done through a number of steps, which I will just tell you: plans, organizing, implementation, controlling, and evaluation. So, the process of management helps us to use both the human and non-human resources in a planned manner through the following steps. Whether it's an office, whether it's an house, everywhere there has to be certain steps of management which needs to be followed, because this is a way of achieving the goals. Even the families have certain goals, not a single goal. The goals may be multiple goals and they are needed. For this, a choice has to be made, because no family has unlimited resources. And when we make this choice, we hope to achieve the most important goals. And the families don't have full control over its resources. So, for example, a family decides to go on a holiday. So, same time a scheme offering good discount can be there on a television set. So, they have to make a choice. either to go for a holiday or to buy a television set. So in this way, circumstances arises or situations arise where families have to make a choice as what they want. And here we see that they will always try to make the best choice out of the given resources that they have. And this is the process of management. So let us go through the steps of management. The first and the foremost step of management is planning. Planning is very commonly used in relation to day-to-day activities. We all make a plan. Every morning when we get up, each one has got a plan for the day. We have a plan for the week, we have a plan for the year, and so on. So we find that whether you are rich or poor, young or old, you have to have planning, which is an intellectual process. And it is a way of determining the course of action as how you'll make a decision to carry out the purpose, facts, and considered estimates. So planning is a thinking process. Nothing has yet been carried on. We have just given it a thought and we have decided as to how much of our resources are going to be utilized to fulfill a particular plan or goal. And this is very essential. So when we do planning, we find that the plan that we do has to be, we try to see that is well carried out. It is finalized within a given time frame. The duties delegated or allotted maybe to the different family members are carried on. How it is to be done and what ways can we use, what different ways. There has to be flexibility. No plan is successful if it is rigid. A planning process has to be flexible, whether in the office or at home. So efficient planning is very essential. So it helps to bridge the gap, that is where you are and where you want to be. That is, it is like an architect which is going to help us to achieve our goals. So it helps us to start thinking as to how we need to go about a certain course of action. So it has to be simple, action oriented, it has to be thorough, motivated and flexible. Followed by that, the next step is organizing. Once the plan has been finalized, we need to carry on the next step, that is how we are going to organize. That is the process of combining and coordinating the work of the different family members along with the resources of the family. How the process of that we, or how the method or how the plan that we have thought of is to be carried on by the help of the different family members and the quantity of resources that is owned by a family. The next third step would be implementation, that is putting together the plan into action. It is the doing process where the plan has been finalized and the resources have been brought together and organized so that the work can begin. That is implementation. Followed by that, next step would be controlling. So controlling in management is the art of measurement and application of correction for any activity. So it is a process where we find that we measure and apply the correct way. That is, there should be someone to supervise and see. Some elder has to supervise and see how successfully the plan is being carried out. So for this reason, what we find is that the time has to be allotted, a qualified person has to be chosen from the family so that the plan can be carried out in the most easy manner. Evaluation again helps in assessing progress of every step of management process and get the acquired results. It checks and tests to know that the plan is turning out as originally planned or whether any modification or changes needs to be done. So lastly, we come to evaluation, this tool of management, which will help us to know how far the work has progressed and in which step are we. Have we been able to carry out the plan successfully, or should we make some changes within our given resources? Because it's not possible for a family always to add more resources. So keeping all this in mind, the process of evaluation will decide whether the plan has been carried out in the best possible way. With this, we finish the process of management, and we'll continue with the rest in our next class. Thank you.